I'm in the 2023 Nissan Ariya. Now this is a front wheel drive model in the Empower Plus trim. Has about 240 horsepower, just a little bit less actually. We have this Nissan Shield up front. They actually hide some of the safety gear, like radar cruise control sensors behind that shield up front. I think Nissan's done an amazing job with this design overall. I mean, it's got a little two-tone. It's hard to tell with this sparkly blue color, but we do have a sparkly black roof. We also have these optional 19-inch wheels. Now, the standard wheels are already 19 inches. These are just a little bit more sporty and cost a lot of money. So I don't recommend getting them if you can help it. As we come around to the back, I mean, it's a handsome vehicle. I think you would no doubt, if you saw it on the road for the first time, I don't think you would think it wasn't an EV. So I guess Nissan is catering to that. And we also have like a little light bar in the back. It looks pretty cool. Ariya has its own little logo as well. We lift this up. Glossy black here at the bottom of the bumper. We have some removable floor here. Two different areas. I stored my camera under here yesterday because there's not a lot of space on the interior. You'll see in a little bit. In terms of range, Nissan claims about 289 miles. We'll put that to the test today as best as we can. Let's go ahead and get into the back seat. And these doors, real quick, they close very nicely. So Nissan, well done with the build qualities. I'm going to gush over it here in a little bit. Beautiful stitching here on the door, very soft touch, nice materials. And this is a design theme they have throughout the vehicle. This little pattern reminds me of the 90s a little bit around the speaker grills as well. Armrests are super soft. There's that Ariya logo here on the skid plate. These seats have little patches of suede in the middle. Very nice feeling. And look at this big overlap to hide the seat latches. Really easy to plug in if you are moving kids around as well. And we also have a panel roof. I'll go ahead and open up for you guys. Let's go ahead and close this door. And I love the backs to these seats. Well, let's go ahead and close it, open this up the full width. The backs of these seats, look at the quality of this headrest back here. It's absolutely amazing. And then we have this fabric here. It's kind of like a plastic, but it's still soft touch. If your knees had to push into it, it wouldn't be the worst. We have mat pockets on each side. We have this faux wood trim everywhere throughout the vehicle. Super high luxury. Let me know down below if you think Nissan should have brought this Ariya here as an Infinity vehicle. Look at this luxury. USB-C, USB-A in the back, heated outboard seats. I can fold this down and reveal some cup holders. Now, the seat right now is reclined, and even check out the small detail like this. A little button snap that you typically only see on coupes. You have it here. There we go, snap. You have to press it down really hard because these seats are so soft. Now, there's a couple different settings for decline, or should I say recline. It's really almost pointless, but this isn't the most upright position here with this back seat, and they still have a couple inches of headroom, which is great. And me at 6'1", behind myself at 6'1", good leg room back here, fully flat floor, and this piece moves. So it's great to also have the vents back here. I don't know if I mentioned that, but no sunshades, but that's all right. Let's go and get in the front seat. Again, that same beautiful trimmings here. It's just a bigger door for the front row. I mean, we have power folding mirrors as well with the blind spot monitor on the outside, memory seats here on this end, vertical lumbar control as well. These seats are super comfortable. You got this little suede piece here at the bottom. You got the perforation. Now, these are not ventilated. They're only heated, but I haven't had any issues staying cool with them because of the dimpled perforation here. So let's go ahead and close even the small details like this. There's that, 90s design, that little pattern here when you close the door. And you also have it down here in the footwell. This is an ambient light at night, which is a nice little glow. All right, let's get back into the materials here. I already mentioned the seats. Check out this wood panel across the dash. Beautiful. Nice soft touch here as well. The stitching in this vehicle is some of the best I've ever seen. And the wizards over in Japan, yes, it's a Nissan built in Japan. Not that many are built in Japan here and that are available in North America, but the Ariya absolutely is. The stitching on the steering wheel, check this out. It is mastercraft. Very, very impressed. I like the little gold accents we have in here as well. Even the attention to detail on the volume knob has the right amount of heft, and you can press it to turn off the radio. And then you also have this the hidden button for flashers. And then on the other side, you have the forward and back seat buttons, which is great. Notice how the vents just kind of blend into the dash here. They're almost completely hidden, and they have a nice heft to them. And even when you slide them side to side, they have a real nice resistance. Now, I'm about ready to blow your minds because we have a movable center console here. I love that. Now, Unfortunately, it does bite into the back row legroom. So if you have a person in the middle seat back there, you're going to want to move this all the way forward. But it's great to have this movable so you can be in the most comfortable position depending on where your seat is and how tall you are. You also have these hard touch buttons. So if I just gloss my hands over these, they don't do anything. I have to hold it down and I get a little haptic feedback. It kind of vibrates. And then you also see this little flower design. They're like a sakura blossom. There are different pieces, and this is all felt line and it goes really far down. Anyways, there's not a lot of cargo space. So that's why they have this fold out tray here, because I've lifted this up. Yes, you can sneak your phone in here. Wireless charger if you want to. I just found it when you put it in there, it's kind of hard to retrieve without lifting this up. And then all you have is this a little sakura blossom there on that corner. On the other corner is the Ariya logo. Even the resistance to this armrest is excellent with a nice gold trim on the outside. It's very, very soft as well. Put my cup over there for now, and you can see when I close this, the accordion style is absolutely beautiful. Reminds me of Volvo's. A nice little gold lever there. I don't know if I've seen this shifter in other Nissan products. I'm not quite sure if it's unique here in the Ariya, but push for park, pretty simple here. But you also control your drive modes with this, and also with that wireless charger, I put it in, disappears, and then this will illuminate, letting you know that your phone's charging, and you get a little vibration as well. So let's go ahead and close this with the hard touch button. Now these buttons are not hard touch here on the dash. They're just touch sensitive, and so you can just easily turn on and off, which is great. It's a little bit better, I would say, than a touch screen because they're always here. I also like how the power button's recessed into the center dash. You also have your emergency parking brake right here. If you need additional storage, this one is not automated, but it is felt lined, and it is barely enough just to store some additional belongings because it is very shallow in there. We have two 12-inch screens. You can see it takes up the full screen for Android Auto, and then if I need to get out of there, I have quick access to the Nissan built-in software, which is great. I'm never really in that though. I go to Android Auto. However, when I'm in here, I can't access my heated steering wheel or heated seat setting. I have to actually get out and go to here and then adjust it from here because there are no dedicated buttons for my heated seat or my heated steering wheel. Luckily, I can just put them on automatic and it takes care of all of the heating for me. Now for the sound system, it sounds actually pretty good in here. I'd say it sounds like any other Bose sound system, but I don't actually know if it's Bose because there are no Bose logos in here. On the far left, you have your steering assist, which we'll play with that on the highway for a little bit today. Your head-up display, which is phenomenal in here. Auto brake hold, as well as to disable your scheduling. I don't have paddle shifters in here. Instead, if you want some regen braking, you can play with this E-step, and I'll show you what that's like to drive with. Lastly, we have a digital rearview mirror. Very blocky and square. Cassie said it looks like a modern bathroom mirror. And you also have that design up here with that pattern. You know, out of all the materials in here, the headliner is the most average. It's not terrible. It's still soft touch, but it's, I would say, average for a Nissan. Also down here at the bottom, the floor is completely, well, not completely flat. There's like maybe a 1 or 2 inch hump here in the middle, but look at all this space. I love this sort of pass-through breathability. And you also have additional USB plugins down here and a 12 volt. And then guess what? Inside here, you have that little sakura blossom as well. All right, driving the Ariya here. It is very quiet, as you would expect from an electric vehicle. I'm feeling some bumps in a road, and that's maybe one of the big detractions here in the Ariya, is that the suspension just seems to be slightly overwhelmed by the heft of this vehicle. I'll put the weight, oh, there's a nice LS there, but and a nice ES. I'll put the weight of this vehicle down below, and of course it would go up in weight if you put the E-Force all-wheel drive system in here. You know, you do feel imperfections in the road, and maybe it's because of these 19-inch wheels. Maybe on lower models that have cushier, thicker tire sidewalls that you wouldn't feel it as much, but this seems to be right on the edge of being a little bit too firm and a little bit too bumpy. And when you come to a stop, you also get a bit of teetering. It's not the worst I've experienced, but it's not great either. Now with 240 horsepower and coming in at just under $60,000, it's not that much power for how much money you're spending. And the range, well, we'll find out, but on paper it's decent. At 289 miles, I don't think that's terrible, but it doesn't have the fastest charging. I want to say it's around 150 kilowatts. I'll correct that if that's not up to date, but it just doesn't do anything amazing in terms of an electric vehicle. But it does so many things right in terms of a normal vehicle. It's overall smooth. It's ridiculously quiet. I have instant response, even though it's a little dulled out. And then I also have Regen Braking, which I actually like this E-step. The more I drive with it, the more I get used to it. Yes, you still have to use your brake pedal, but it's slowing down the vehicle for me right now. I'm not on the brakes. And then it gets me down to around 7 miles an hour and then just kind of coast from there. And some manufacturers pump in some noise. I haven't got any of that yet, but I haven't driven it in sport mode yet, so stay tuned for that. And since we'll have open road in front of us, I'm gonna go ahead and put it into sport mode, and I wanna see what kind of 0 to 60 we'll get. And that's the great thing about electric vehicles, at least you know, if they don't have gobs and gobs of horsepower, you can just hammer them from the stop and they'll be safe and track straight and give you good safety as well. I didn't, you know, it was really dulled out, and I feel like Nissan didn't give me the full power. There's 60. They don't want you to like snap your neck at the start. So 0 to 60 in 7.73 and 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 8.12. So not the result that I was expecting, and I feel like this vehicle, with the power that it has, can actually be quicker. It's just that Nissan doesn't want you to rocket ship from a stop. Maybe due to unintended acceleration. I mean, that's a sore word for Japanese automakers, but yeah, I just, with the instant torque, I wasn't given all the instant torque and power, even though I put the pedal down all the way in sport mode. So we're just gonna roll onto the throttle here. Just so smooth. It's almost like Nissan wanted to make this feel, oh, I just triggered its voice activation software. It's almost like NISSAN wanted this experience to almost be like their CVT experience, which if you've watched my QX50 review and QX55 reviews, for example, on the Infiniti end, they're really smooth and they're really responsive, but you don't feel any shifting in the gears. And that's kind of what I have here, except it's completely silent. So pedal down, it does take off. So if you do maximum inputs to the pedals, they absolutely respond. But with modest inputs, it's really smoothed out and almost dumbed down, because Nissan seemingly didn't want you to experience that instant torque unless you really meant it. Even though the pedal responsiveness is a little dulled out, I'm not upset about it, because it really enhances the smoothness of this vehicle and puts it into luxury tier in terms of sophistication and isolation from anything that's unsettling. As for the seat, I love the materials on it. It is a little bit tight here at the bottom. The bolstering's a bit firm and narrow. Maybe Americans are just a little bit different size on average compared to Japanese people, so maybe that's what's going on here. But I don't feel like the seat is too short like I do in a lot of vehicles. It feels the right length. It would have been nice to have thigh extension. And then visibility is really good in here. There are no major blind spots. All the windows are really large. I sit up though kind of high, and maybe it's because there's a large battery pack underneath me. My eyesight is kind of, I would say, right at the middle portion of this digital rear view mirror. Now, even though I feel things from the road with this suspension and these huge wheels, I don't hear anything from the road, and I really rarely hear anything from passing cars either. But we'll test that on the freeway. That's what we're going to cut to now. Now, I just discovered that there's kind of a second regen mode, and I took E-step off and I put it into B mode instead of drive. Instead of D, it's in B. And I've seen a function like this on the Prius before. Right next to that huge 18-wheeler, wasn't that loud. Anyways, getting over, even the stocks feel good. But back to this B mode, the regen, I actually like it better than the E-pedal or the E-step, because it's not quite as strong. It's easier to predict as well, your stopping distance. So I actually like this mode quite a bit, even more than drive, because the Regen is more of my taste, I'll say that. Yeah, it's so much easier to accurately slow down the vehicle in B mode as it compared to the E step. And the pedal seems to be a little bit more sensitive in this mode too, almost like it's in sport mode. And this vehicle, even though it's heavy, it's still not that big lengthwise, so it's easy for me to get in and out of traffic, no problem. But throwing around the turn as we get onto the freeway, very little body roll, which is funny because it has a lot of pitch and dive when you come to a stop, but when you throw it in the turns, it feels very planted. I'm just gonna pedal down here. Holy cow. 240 horsepower in my butt. That was really impressive. So I'm going 70 right now. I'm gonna hammer it. And it's, I mean, there's 85, there's 90. Like, you don't need to get the all-wheel drive model, but when you're spending this much money, it would be nice to have that extra 150 horsepower, there's no doubt. But man, electrified horsepower is always so impressive. Just pedal down and you're going. There's no waiting around. You're not waiting on a transmission to downshift to pick the right engine revs for power delivery. It's just on tap all the time. And maybe it slows down a little bit after 70 miles per hour, but it pulled hard from about 60 to 70 there. Very impressive. Now that we're on the freeway, let's use a Nissan safety shield here and get an idea of what the safety is like. So I find it funny because the truck in front of me, the head-up display knows that it's a truck or a van or some sort of commercial vehicle, because in the head-up display it shows like a semi-truck rear end. And then when you're behind a car, it'll show a car rear end. So it's just a funny thing there. Right now it turned blue. Blue must mean it's locked in, because when I was driving in town, it would do green sometimes, but not all the time. So driving in town, the safety features to me were a little underwhelming because it wasn't as assistive as I wanted to, at least from a steering standpoint. But from a stop and go standpoint, when I was in town, it brought the vehicle to a stop, and all I had to do was press up on this cancel button, and then it would continue with traffic once it was traffic was starting to move. So very smooth. Oh, there's a Tesla right there, but very smooth safety features here. Nissan has baked into this. And out on the freeway, it even shows me blind spot monitor on the head-up display, which is great. So I have all that information here on the head-up display at my disposal. Wind noise, you know, it's here and there. It's never really coming from one general area. So well done, Nissan, with wind noise suppression. I still hear it, but it's not annoying like it was in the Sienna last week, for example, where I feel like I had to yell all the time because I was just overpowered by the wind coming from the A-pillar area. Road noise is very minimal, even with these huge 19-inch wheels. So from a luxury standpoint, noise isolation technology, from looks to powertrain even, Nissan has hit it out of the park. The problem is it's still an electric vehicle, and there are better electric vehicles at this price. Are they going to be better than the Nissan Ariya everything? I don't think so, because my jaw is still on the floor with the build quality and the materials and the design of this vehicle. So here's why you would buy the Nissan Ariya. Well, don't buy it. I would say lease it, because then you can take advantage of the EV tax credit. And at the end of your lease, you can decide to either buy it out or do what you want. But that's the best way to get this vehicle, is to lease it and get the $7,500 baked into your payment. But you get this if you're able to charge at home, and if you're mainly driving around town. I wouldn't want to buy this. And I've come to the same conclusion with the Lexus competitor to this, as well as the Toyota competitors, which is the BZ4X and Lexus RZ, especially the RZ. This reminds me most of the RZ. It's not quite as smooth, and the suspension isn't quite as dialed out, but I like the interior on this car a lot better than the RZ. And maybe even the looks on the outside. I just would maybe get the copper color on this instead of this blue, which kind of hides the beauty of this vehicle. So I am impressed with the Nissan Ariya overall. It just hurts that it costs so much money and makes it really a lease-only vehicle. Since it's made in Japan, it doesn't qualify for the EV tax credit if you're to finance or purchase cash. That's why I said lease. And I think this vehicle would have actually done better, not as a Nissan, but as an Infiniti, because it costs so much, and the build quality and the materials here. and the overall refinement of the powertrain is absolutely Infiniti quality, if not better in my opinion. So it just hurts a little bit that Nissan could have marketed this better here in our market when you have the benefit of having a luxury marquee at your disposal, and they've decided to wait a few more years for that to come to their brand, or the electrification to come to their brand. One thing about the brake pedal, which I don't have to use that much, there is the first inch or so is kind of like a dead area. So that's maybe one knock in terms of the driving mechanics on this Ariya, but totally forgivable. But I'm gonna finish out this video by driving a little bit more in town as I go home, and I wanna get a better idea of my efficiency, and then I'll calculate in the office what my estimated range is here in the Nissan Ariya.
All right, back in the office, I want to share a couple pictures here with you guys. This is the software, this little charging time estimation. It'll always tell you with your current state of charge, how long it'll take to charge the battery to full based off of your at-home charging situation. So it knows just automatically, because I plugged it in previously, I have a mild level 2 charger, 3.6 kilowatts. I love that little estimation there. If we look at the charging port, very high quality spring-loaded charging port covers. I enjoyed that. Here is our efficiency on our quick drive today, as well as the miles we covered, and it took about 9% of our battery. So based off my estimations, either on the efficiency or the drop in percentage of the battery with the miles that we went, you're around 300 miles of range, which is pretty darn good, and it's more than the 289 miles estimated on the sticker. Probably about 60% city, maybe 40% highway that we did in the video. Ambient temperature here in South Florida in the summer, hot, humid, over 90 degrees. Humidity, I don't know, 80, 90%. And I had the AC at 2 fan speeds set at 72 Fahrenheit. So range is great. Charging is not great at 130 kilowatts. And so it's still an amazing in-town luxury electric vehicle. One of the best. I've tested just an overall refinement. But the problem is that it costs a lot of money. There are other EVs I would take over this, even with less range. I just wish I had a little bit more power here. Even for $60,000, I should have had the E-Force all-wheel drive system in here. Can't wait to test that one, because man, I might say, hey, just spend a little bit more money, get the E-Force all-wheel drive model. It's a great vehicle for in and around town, and it's even better if you lease it. Buying it, it's just not going to hold its value better, as EVs are rapidly improving battery technology, charging technology, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a really good car overall, especially if you lease it. If you made this far in the video, I'd appreciate a smashing of the like button. Make sure to subscribe, because I can't wait to drive the E-Force all-wheel drive model of the Ariya. It would be very, very impressive. Anyways, thank you guys. Catch you in the next one. Have a great day and peace.